The Sussex Police and Crime Panel met on the 24th of January 2014. Two brief announcements during Agenda Item 9 prompted this video.
Item 9, Chief Constable update. The Commissioner is going to tell us where we are with this, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Members will know that recently Chief Constable Martin Richards, just before Christmas, announced his retirement after, I think, 32 or 33 years' service as a police officer. He's done the last 6 years as Chief Constable in Sussex, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, has given a fantastic record of himself.
I don't know what you mean by saying that he has given a record of himself, and I do not agree that he has been fantastic in any sense of that tiresomely overused word. I had already learned of the Chief Constable's imminent departure from a story in the Argus Co-UK on the 6th of December 2013. The last of 4 sentences attributed to Richards on that occasion reads, "I shall remember with affection and admiration a workforce that consistently demonstrates the highest qualities of compassion, courage, a sense of justice, and above all, an overwhelming desire to serve." Richards seems to have forgotten the 20 officers who were arrested between 2008 and July 2013, and that, according to the Argus Co-UK, January 2012, 20 serving Sussex police officers have criminal convictions. Others with no sense of justice and a desire to serve mostly themselves included Chief Inspector Sharon Rowe and Chief Inspector Jim Talbot, who were arrested on suspicion of stealing wine from Marks and Spencer. Rowe resigned from Sussex Police and Talbot killed himself. WPC Grania Hale, jailed for 14 months for tipping off a drug suspect about a potential raid. Sergeant Yates read on a police computer that £3,500 had been found on a bridleway. He rang his force under a false name, claiming his wife had dropped the cash. He was not jailed. Darren Graysmark, 23 years with Sussex Police. After cocaine worth nearly £150,000 was found in his car, he was jailed for 16 months after admitting laundering more than £80,000. Acting Sergeant Savage pleaded guilty to making and distributing more than 50,000 sickening images of child abuse. He was jailed for 27 months. I first learned of Richard's appointment by Sussex Police Authority on the 26th of July 2007, when local television announced it. I looked him up online. He'd become Chief Constable of Wiltshire in September 2004. In January 2006, Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary published a report on the Force's Professional Standards Department, the department that deals with complaints from the public. HMIC rated it as only fair, the 3 other available grades being good, excellent and poor. More wide-ranging was the HMIC's Wiltshire Constabulary Baseline Assessment of October 2006. This graded Wiltshire Police for 23 categories of policing. Grades awarded were excellent none, good 8, of which 4 were for resource use, fair 11, and poor 4 for neighbourhood policing and problem solving, managing critical incidents and major crime, tackling serious and organised criminality, and protecting vulnerable people. This mixed verdict was not reflected in the way the appointment of Richards in Sussex was heralded by the chairman of Sussex Police Authority, who said that there had been an outstanding field of candidates. Though Sussex Police Authority, by law, had to make the appointment, whether they played a part in the actual selection must be open to doubt. On the 31st of July 2007, the chairman introduced the appointment of Martin Richards as follows.
And I'm pleased to say that Mr. Stuart Richards of Wiltshire Constabulary has agreed to take up the position. It's been formally offered to him.
Richards took up his new post on the 1st of October 2007, and soon after that the Chief Executive of Sussex Police Authority decided that the authority's Complaints Committee should be renamed the Professional Standards Committee. A Complaints Committee meeting with only one elected authority member present agreed to the change.
We recommend that the Complaints Committee be renamed the Professional Standards Committee.
Would the authority agree to the change? 3 people who were not members of the authority spoke in favour of the change. Strong support for the change of name was expressed by the Chief Executive, by a Deputy Chief Constable, Williams, and by the Chief Constable, Richards, none of whom is a member of the authority, and by the Vice Chairman of the authority, Bush, who is unelected. The Chief Constable's comment on that occasion warranted a paragraph on a Sussex Police Authority page of my website. We're one of the organisations about which it's dead easy to make complaints. I think that anything we can do to present all that we do, not just those little irritants, those issues that are wholly unrepresentative, I think this would be a wonderful opportunity to do just that. I commented, the Chief Constable is mistaken in thinking that it is easy to make a complaint about Sussex Police. He fails to explain what he means by little irritants and unrepresentative issues, but they might be taken to refer to complaints from the public or to the complainants themselves. As the statement is not entirely clear, it is too early as yet to decide that the new Chief Constable displays fascist tendencies. I followed my account of that meeting with a quotation from an HMIC document published the previous year. The police service depends on the confidence of the public it serves in order to operate effectively. This confidence can only be reinforced by the conviction that the service is willing to listen to feedback in terms of complaints, deal effectively with these issues in a timely and efficient manner, accept that mistakes can be made and address these in the spirit of learning. It must make effective reparations without lengthy and expensive judicial processes and deal swiftly and positively with officers and staff who transgress. During a meeting of Sussex Police Authority on the 30th of July 2009, after a long rant from an unelected member about people who are professional complainants,
appear to be professional complainers.
The first person to speak was Richards.
I'm pleased the discussions are ongoing because it's an area that I've not had hands-on involvement with for about 4 or 5 years now, but just talking to Giles, there is a standard form of letter which says, in response to the third persistent complaint, I will not be responding to any further. Yours sincerely.
Talking to Giles suggests that, as in Wiltshire, Richards deputed complaints to his deputy, though his brain, if not his hands, had been employed only 3 years before. After the IPCC had upheld complaints about Wiltshire Police, Richards said that he was deeply sorry for mistakes and wrong decisions made at the time. A pregnant young woman, petrified, had reported being seriously assaulted, but was assessed by Wiltshire Police as being at low risk. 6 days later, her boyfriend slashed her throat with a knife and was jailed for life. As regards the general standard of policing under Richards, my YouTube video Sussex Police Still Substandard deals with the most wide-ranging report on Sussex Police during Richards' time, from 2009 on. Still refers to the fact that Sussex Police was so bad on 1 of 10 pledges that remedial action on that and a further report were required, after which the overall grade for the force was still fair. Fair is awarded where performance is variable and falls short of the required standard. Remedial action is needed. There's not time to deal in any detail with the serious problems that complainants have with Sussex Police, so I'll just cite one example of Sussex Police in action, an agenda item for a Professional Standards Committee meeting on the 13th of October 2010. The agenda promised an oral report by Chief Constable, but instead we were greeted by a Chief Inspector.
I'm Natalie, I'm the District Commander for Lewis District.
Chief Inspector Natalie Maloney explained that processing a complaint in her district involved herself and 2 other officers, as well as the person complained about. The outcome was very predictable.
None of the complaints against any of my officers over the last year have been substantiated.
At the moment, Chief Constable Richards is still in post, but we're in a transition period, and from the 7th of February he will be officially handing over the reins to the Deputy Chief Constable, Giles York, who will then step up to become temporary Chief.
From Sussex Police Authority meetings, it has been evident to me that York has been encouraging a lax attitude towards police malpractice. A couple of examples were included in my YouTube video, Sussex Police Authority Challenge Sussex Police. During a Professional Standards Committee meeting on the 28th of April 2011, an unelected member, Faz, took what I thought to be the extraordinary step of speaking up on behalf of members of the public in a way that was critical of the police. He said to York,
Sort of the impression that I'm getting is that, speaking to a number of people, certainly in Crawley, where we have a large proportion of the EMEA community, is that when they go to the station to make a complaint, that sometimes they're waiting around for somebody to take the complaint, and other times they're told, well, we don't want to take your complaint.
I think the instances that Faz raised cause me quite a bit of concern. If we've got people who are willing to turn around and say, no, we're not going to accept this complaint, because exactly as Emma says, and you have said, is we're obliged to take the complaint. I'd possibly say, try a different channel and put it straight into headquarters, rather than ask somebody to embark on the same process that hasn't given them the right response in the first instance.
So the police response is not to examine whether Crawley police are at fault, and if so, do something about it, but to suggest that the complainant complained to headquarters. The second example is more significant in that the attitude expressed has been taken up by other senior officers. At this meeting, an officer had spoken to the committee about complaints in the Brighton and Hove division. York commented
that the attitude of police force to complaints has changed significantly with the introduction of the Taylor reforms, which I think has moved us away from a kind of pernicious investigative approach to officers' actions and opened up the opportunity much more towards management and performance improvement as opposed to a quasi-legal process happening whenever anything went wrong. And I just wondered how in Brighton and Hove you've brought that culture shift that's available to you now of moving, I think, away from what was historically called a complaints and discipline department into what is now a professional standards department, around being able to address people's behaviours rather than just being seen as something as a punitive action to take.
The Humberside Police Authority had received very different advice about the Taylor report and updated legislation about disciplinary arrangements from Humberside's Chief Constable more than 3 years before this. It included these explanations. Misconduct proceedings could include management action, a final written warning, or the sack. Sanctions could involve management advice, a written warning, a final written warning, dismissal with notice, or instant dismissal.